Today we're talking about four kinds of relationships. Convenience, convenient relationships. There's four kinds of relationships: convenient, contract, commitment, and covenant. Hey everyone, welcome to day 34 in the Secure Marriage video series. And today we're talking about four kinds of relationships you can have with your spouse: a convenient relationship, a contract relationship, a commitment relationship, or a covenant relationship. We're going to talk about them from kind of the lowest to the highest levels of commitment and responsibility and engagement with your spouse. Let's start with convenient relationships. Convenient relationships are basically relationships that are established between you and your spouse because you can get something out of the relationship. You are in it primarily for your own selfish gains, and you are looking to meet your own needs in some way with very little regard for your spouse or their needs. A quote I came across talking about the idea of convenient relationships says, "People who look for convenient relationships usually have no intention of commitment, or the perspective of commitment is highly dysfunctional." They may say they're in a committed relationship, but in reality, their behavior, their actions, their nonverbal communication, the way they interact with their spouse, clearly states that they are looking for a relationship of convenience. Something else along the lines of convenient relationships is they will never have the opportunity to grow, change, or evolve because that's not the inherent nature of those relationships. They tend to stay the same long term. The other detrimental thing about a convenient relationship is someone who's engaged with a person who's looking for, not engaged in a like I'm going to be married, but someone who is in a relationship with someone who's in it for a convenient relationship for them. That person doesn't actually know that that's kind of the nature of the relationship. They're kind of oblivious to that. They're kind of blind to it in their own way. And oftentimes it takes some sort of tragic impact in the relationship, or a friend coming in and talking to them saying, "You are being used by this person," because sometimes they're often blind to it. If we go up the level of kind of intensity or purposefulness behind the relationship, we move up into a contractual relationship. A contract or contractual relationship, it says, "I will do something for you if you do something for me." It's a quid pro quo. It is an expectation that says, you have to be doing something for me, and if you do that, then I will do something for you. And if either one of the parties does not follow through on their commitment or their contractual obligation, then the contract itself is null and void. Either party can walk away. And there's usually consequences that come along with that. If you don't follow through, you'll pay this, or there'll be a fine of some sort. Or the expectation is, I'm only going to do this if you are going to be doing something else in return. That creates a very static, a very what's the word I'm looking for? Not toxic, not a sterile. That's the word. It creates a very sterile kind of relationship. It has very little emotion or love or grace involved in it. It's very judicial. That's what a lot of fights end up looking like, is you're not doing what you said you're going to do. Oh yeah, well you haven't been doing what you said you're going to be doing before that. And so you go into kind of this judicial presenting exhibit A, exhibit B, so that there's a winner and there's a loser. There's someone who will have to admit, I did something wrong, and someone will have to admit, well, you did something more wrong in front of me. It just gets messy. So contractual relationships are a mess. You can move up into a committed relationship. A committed relationship is a little bit better, but it still has a little bit smattering of contractual. It is saying, I'm going to commit myself to you. I'm going to be engaged with you. I'm going to interact with you, and I'm going to do my best to do right by you. I'm actually going to be thinking about you as well as thinking about me. A committed relationship requires a lot of personal growth, emotional intelligence, and a willingness to dialogue, negotiate, all these things which are really essential for a good, healthy marriage, a good, healthy relationship with your spouse. Or you can go to the last level, which is a covenant relationship. A covenant relationship is this idea that says, I'm going to treat you right, not because of what you do, but because of your inherent value. And it doesn't matter what you actually do. I'm going to do right based upon my own level of integrity. I'm also going to do it because I've made a commitment, usually to God. It is saying, because God has created you, because God has made you purposefully, intentionally, beautifully, because you are precious and valuable, I'm going to see you through His eyes, not through my fallible eyes. And that allows me to love you even when you're not that lovable, even when you are prickly or retaliatory or hurtful towards me. I'm going to see you through grace. I'm going to see you through unconditional acceptance, because that's how God has seen me, and therefore I'm allowed to offer that to you. If it's not based upon a commitment, it's not based upon a contract, and it's definitely not based upon convenience. Covenant relationships tend to have the greatest chance of having a long-term success between a husband and a wife. They're not easy. They require the highest level of emotional maturity, of sacrificial living, of selflessness, and intentionality towards your spouse. But when you do that towards your wife, and your wife does that towards you as a husband, now you start to try to outdo each other, and how can you serve each other? And coming home to that every day, that's not a bad way to experience your spouse. Anyway, those are the 4 C's, the 4 kinds of relationships: a convenient, a contract, a commitment, and then finally a covenant relationship. Sit down and talk it over with your spouse, or if you need to, kind of do some deep introspection into your life and say, what do I actually have? What am I engaging with in my spouse currently? And if you want to start learning how to improve that, if you want to learn how to move into more of a covenant relationship instead of a contractual relationship, that's what secure marriage is all about, is finding some language and some skills and some tools to learn how to do that on a daily, practical basis, week in, week out, year by year, until you have a marriage that lasts for a lifetime. Thanks for watching today. It's been nice sitting with you today. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you tomorrow on day 35. All right, bye-bye.